The expansion draft has passed, and the Chicago Sky made it through without really losing any key members of their current roster, but they did lose a good player, which we're going to talk a little bit about. We're also going to talk about which players should the Chicago Sky focus on retaining leading into free agency. All that plus more right after this.
Welcome to Chicago Sky Central, and here's your host, Haize.
What's going on, Sky fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Sky Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Sky related. I'm the host, Sir Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chicago Sky Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And yeah, man, the expansion draft went by. We kicked around doing a live around the expansion draft. We did not, but we'll get into that in a second. Really, the biggest rumbling kind of right now around the WNBA outside of the schedules being released is Jewel Lloyd requesting a trade. And naturally, it's led a lot of Sky fans to ask, could the Chicago Sky get involved in a potential trade for Jewel Lloyd? Now, I'm of two minds with this, right? Could the Sky get involved? Yes. And I think around the WNBA, one thing that we've seen is that really any team can get involved in a potential trade. It just depends on how much you're willing to give up in a case like that. And with the Chicago Sky having two picks in the first round in this draft, they could very well be enough to get them involved in that trade. Now, do I think the Chicago Sky should get involved when it comes down to it? That's a different case there when it comes down to it. The Sky right now are a younger roster, right? And we're a roster also that does not necessarily look like, well, we're not far away from contending, but, in the WNBA, if you're able to build something young and sustainable and through the draft, that typically is something that, goes a better way. But I won't act like the Sky can't put something together if they do want to go after Jewel Lloyd. Now, Jewel Lloyd would bring instantaneously, she would up the expectations of that Chicago Sky team. A former number one overall pick, even with her being 31 years old, which really doesn't mean anything in the WNBA. We are seeing players in the WNBA play into their late 30s. She averaged almost 20 points per game last season alone. She did that on 36% shooting from the field, which isn't the most efficient. She's a 40% shooter for her career, 27% from three. But Jewel Lloyd is still a very productive player. Now, what would it take to get Jewel Lloyd? That's the question here. And at 5'11", 175 pounds, I look at the potential, and I want to be clear here. Is Jewel Lloyd a better player right now? Well, here's the thing. She has a better reputation, but I would more so rather the Chicago Sky keep a player like Chennedy Carter, right? Because I don't think you can play both these ladies together. I just don't think that's the case. And because I do want to see the Sky keep Chennedy, which we'll see what's coming down there. I mean, Chennedy Carter only averaged 2 points less per game from Jewel Lloyd. Now, it's interesting enough that Jewel Lloyd has asked for a trade, considering that team really tried to storm, getting the players that they did last year and Skylar Diggins and et cetera, like really did that to try to put something around Jewel Lloyd. And, her asking for a trade, it really does, it could set the Storm off on a path where if they trade Jewel, they can look to trade a lot of the players that they have on that roster between Skylar Diggins Smith, NECA, right? They could look to maybe move on from those players, even though after Jewel Lloyd signed her extension, it really led the Storm to sign those players. And the Storm are going to be a team that's going to be interesting to watch to see if they do move off of Jewel. What does what ripple effect does that have via what they do with the rest of their roster? That's going to be the interesting part for me to watch for that Storm team. And if the Sky are in a position to take advantage, the Sky are in a position to take advantage. I don't necessarily expect that. It doesn't seem like the type of move that Jeff Pagliosha is really keen on making either. But hey, this is the WNBA, and one thing that we know with the W is that it's you're one move away from being one move away, or you're one move away from being right there. Now, there have already been some rumblings, or maybe the Aces getting involved and things like that after the trade request. So we'll see what boils out there. But I don't expect the Chicago Sky to get involved. I just don't. But it would be. I mean, I can't deny that she is somebody that if the Sky were right to want to add a veteran piece to this team, even if they were able to keep one of their first round picks to do so, it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting, but I think that the Storm would want not only one of the picks, but they even may want one of the Sky's young players back. And I don't mean like an Angel Reese or something like that. So, we'll see what happens there. But it is something to watch out for. It is something to watch out for. And if the Sky do get involved or we hear those rumblings on those talks, I mean, this is the Sky want to build organically, but I think also they are a team that if the right situation is occur, maybe they could be interested. So we'll see what happens there. But let me know your thoughts down below. If it came down to the Sky getting involved in trade conversations for Jewel Lloyd, what would you be willing to give up? Would it be a draft pick? Would it be maybe the rights to Chennedy, Carter in the sign and trade? What would you be willing to give up if it meant bringing Jewel Lloyd and her $249,000 contract that she has 1 year left on to the Chicago Sky? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Now, I talked about at the beginning of this episode that the expansion draft went by. The Valkyries did, select Maria Conde from the Chicago Sky. Now, Conde is a really damn good international player. When you look at what she's been able to do, she was drafted by the Sky in 2019, but she's never come over, and it doesn't seem like she's necessarily on pace to come over anytime soon either. Now, that could be wrong. She's 27 years old, and we've seen players go from being overseas to in the right situation willing to come over. And we'll see what happens there. Now, the Valkyries now do own her rights, but when you look at what she's been able to do overseas, man, she can outright ball. She can outright ball. And she's a player that adds some size and some stuff like that. And, I at 6'1", I really would have, I didn't really know much about her before this. I went and did my research after she was taken because I didn't even realize she was on the Chicago Sky's roster. That's on me. But she hasn't played a single minute yet. And she has continued to opt not to play. And so, she does have, because the Valkyries took her rights, it doesn't mean, they even said this, we don't know if she'll be coming over for the 2025 season. We just love her tenacity. She's playing really great basketball. She's continued to elevate her game. Eurobasket is in June, so there's a question mark for all international athletes that we've selected. We wanted the opportunity to talk to her, to give her the opportunity to come over here if she wanted to. So it seems like the Valkyries GM, this was a calculated risk, right, of going over there and potentially drafting somebody that could come over and help your team. 14.8 points per game, 6.7 rebounds, 6.7 assists, 5.5 rebounds per game. She's a member of also the Spanish national team where she averaged 9.5 points per game there. This is a very talented basketball player. I want to be clear here, right? But I'm not too overall worried about it because she wasn't on the Sky's roster, right? And that's what it really just comes down to. The Sky lost somebody who wasn't, while they held their rights, wasn't on the Sky's roster and didn't really shape up to come. Now, I would say this, if Conde does come over, that's definitely a player that could have helped the Sky a whole hell of a lot with a scoring punch, rebound, and the assist, the passing that she's able to do for a team that could use some passing, especially from the big's position. It's unfortunate when it comes down to it, but if the Sky were going to lose anybody, it is what it is when it comes down to it. And we'll see what the Sky do in this year's draft. And, it may end up something that we're not even thinking about when it comes down to it. So wanted to acknowledge that. But with the expansion draft passing now, that allows the Sky to kind of start focusing on free agents. And one of the first things that they have to do is focus on their own free agents. And they have two now, right? Chennedy Carter is of course, as everybody knows, a restricted free agent now in this offseason. She averaged 17.5 points per game. When it comes down to it, 49% shooting as well on about 15 shots per game. And you look at what she's doing overseas right now. Chennedy Carter is absolutely balling. Look at her last few games, 39 points, 42 points, 42 points, 35 points, 44 points. Chennedy Carter's outright freaking balling. Like, that's what it comes down to. She's playing out of her mind, and she's being efficient over there as well. And so this is the type of play from Chennedy Carter you look at and you're like, hey, if she can bring any of this over to the Chicago Sky this upcoming season, and extend her game even further, I think with hopefully a point guard, which the Sky do seem focused on acquiring, it can help them so much and help a player like Chennedy Carter. And I've seen you guys in the comments saying, well, Chennedy wants to play point guard. I get that. She's not really the passer, right? She's not really the shooter either. Even in her scoring outputs overseas, she's not really shooting the three ball all that well. And so the Sky still do need that point guard. They need that three ball threat when it comes down to it. But if they're able to add that and add better passing and better decision making at that point guard position, the sky's really the limit for Chennedy Carter. And I think that the sky, especially with holding her rights in restricted free agency, they have to bring Chennedy Carter back. Now, of course, there's the human element of it. Does she want to come back after what happened with Coach Spoon? There's been some talk around that, some rumblings around that. But, as it comes down to right now, I would love to see Chennedy Carter back in a Chicago Sky uniform. And I, for one, think that the Sky have to do whatever it takes. Now, she's restricted, which means they can match any offer that she gets, which is really good when it comes down to it. But that doesn't mean she still can't be moved, right? A team could make an offer that the Sky can't match. The Sky then could try to get a sign and trade out of that to get some type of assets back, much like we did for Marina Mabry when we initially acquired her. So it's a offseason of calculated risk for the Sky when it comes to Chennedy Carter, and we continue to see how that's shaking out for her as well. But I think now it all kind of geared towards Chennedy Carter. I would love to see her stay here with the Chicago Sky and see how she continues to develop with Angel, with Kamilla Cardoso, and then whoever we add with our 2 draft picks, if we keep both those draft picks this year, staying healthy, hopefully, those type of things. Hopefully, Tyler Marsh, as the new head coach, really looks at building a relationship with Chennedy Carter, because this is the first place that Chennedy said she really felt accepted for being her, right? And I know that's something that it can easily be overlooked, but that's important for a player that's dealt with as much as Chennedy Carter has dealt with over the course of her career. So let's hope that ends up being the case. The next one, Michaela Onyenwere. And I think that Michaela is a player that I would like to see the Sky keep, because I don't think it's going to take a lot of money to keep her. She really started playing better on the back half of that season as well. I think in her versatility and what she's going to be able to bring, even if it ends up being on the bench, that can help the Sky tremendously. I would like to see the Sky keep her. And if they don't, it's not like I'm going to say it's a huge miss if she ends up going elsewhere. But I think when it comes down to Michaela Onyenwere, you see her at everything the Sky do, right? So far this offseason, she's been a representative of the Sky in just about every single aspect of what they've done this offseason. And I think that points towards them wanting to at least really be open to keeping Michaela Onyenwere on this team. So let's hope that ends up being the case as well. And we'll see what happens, man. The Sky got a lot of money, a lot of free agent money that they can will and deal to, again, relative to the WNBA, and we'll really see what this shakes out for. But, I talked about Chennedy Carter's performance overseas. This is something I want to start doing a little bit more. There's a lot of Chicago Sky players right now balling overseas. I talked a little bit on the last episode, which was a couple of weeks ago at this point. Kamilla Cardoso is one that's really playing really well over in China as well. Her last few games, 19, 13 points, 13. So she's really balling over there. And I talked in the comments to somebody before. They're like, well, she's playing over in China, her size, she should be. And yeah, but working on her game is the key thing for all these ladies. And so Kamilla Cardoso is doing that. She's getting up those reps. She's not playing in unrivaled. So what she's doing over in Shanghai is really good. But she's been shooting the ball pretty efficiently as well over there in China. And you want to see Kamilla continue to work and refine her game, because what she's going to be able to do coming back over here for the Sky is going to be really important. So let me know what you guys think on that one down below. Isabel Harrison as well is another player playing overseas. And considering how she was kind of in and out, her minutes were up and down last year. She's been playing really consistently over there in China as well. I'm sorry, she's not in China. I believe she's in Russia over there. But she's been playing extremely well. Solidly is what you want to look down to it. She's playing in the Czech Republic as well. I had to correct myself on that one. But Isabel Harrison, when you look at her last few games as well, she last game, only 5 points on 1 of 5 shooting. That one's not good. The game prior to that, 4 of 9 for 10 points, 4 of 10 for 18 before that. So it's been kind of still an up and down thing for Isabel Harrison. But, we've seen games where Isabel is on and how that helps the Sky coming off the bench. And I would not be surprised if the Sky do trying to retain Isabel Harrison to see what she can bring to this team, depending on what they do in the draft and the other positions as well. So we'll see what happens there. And Dana Evans always cooks overseas. There's no surprise over there for her. It's just, can she actually do that when she comes back to the W, right? That's always the question with Dana, is she going to be in the role? And is she even going to be a member of the Chicago Sky is a huge question there as well. So, we'll see how that shakes out for the Sky and for Dana as well. But overall, it's been pretty quiet. It's going to start picking up soon. January is right around the corner. The WNBA draft is not too, free agency's not too far away. Unrivaled's not too far away, right? Which is a big thing there as well. And so, you look at what some of the ladies are also doing over in college when you look at some of the draft prospects. But that I'm going to hold on to, because on Friday I'm going to be dropping an episode in regards to the Chicago Sky and their draft prospects and how they're performing over in college, kind of doing a high-level intake on that one. But that's my time. Thank you guys for tuning in. Wanting to get this episode out to you guys. Make sure you guys are following the show at Chicago Sky Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoSkyCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Sky related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Sky. Love you guys. And I'll see you guys the next time we go to Skytown, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.